The segment was supposed to be a no-brainer. The Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt, would take Terry Bradshaw, the jovial face of the Fox Sports NFL studio, for a spin around Daytona International Speedway to promote the network's new $2.4 billion broadcast agreement with NASCAR. The piece was filmed the night before the Daytona 500, hours after the finish of the 2001 Busch Series season opener. No one could possibly have known that Earnhardt had less than 24 hours to live. With that hindsight in mind, the footage takes on a different, far more sobering tone. Earnhardt and Bradshaw roll leisurely through turn 4, right past the spot where Earnhardt's race car would impact so violently the very next afternoon. A moment or two later, Earnhardt jerks the car quickly sideways for no other reason than to keep Bradshaw awake. Those snippets are poignant enough, but then, God almighty, Earnhardt intentionally steers into an awkward transition from Daytona's banking onto the track apron while cheerily warning Bradshaw of the dangers of doing so. There was at least one more eerie moment of foreshadowing during Fox's pre-race coverage. Pit road reporter Matt Yoakum sat down with Earnhardt outside the driver's motor coach for what would turn out to be his final televised interview. Earnhardt began with the usual hopeful outlook for a good day's race and season, but then grinned that Earnhardt grin of his and concluded.
Exciting. I think it's going to be some exciting racing. Going to see something you probably had never seen on Fox.
No, Dale. Nobody could have imagined what would take place on the final lap that day. Nobody. February 18th, 2001. The weather in Daytona was a gorgeous Chamber of Commerce perfect 68 degrees with bright, cloudless skies. Opening day in any sport is cause for optimism. Stick and ball teams are all tied for first place. And in the one that truly matters, NASCAR, every team has a shot at getting to the checkered flag first. If nothing else, 2001 would have to be better than the year 2000, during which drivers had died in each of NASCAR's 3 national touring divisions. We were all ready to leave the sorrow and controversy behind and get back to the business of working on and around silly race cars. That's not to say that everybody was in the best of moods that morning, and in particular, Danny Cullen and Ward Burton. Specifically, both were angry with Dale Earnhardt. The issues for Cullen, Earnhardt's longtime spotter, began during practice on Friday, just 2 days before the Daytona 500.
I knew that Casey was to his inside corner right there. I just got on the rail. I said, Dale, inside corner, inside corner. Well, he come on the rail, just yelling, about made me wreck, God damn it, about wrecked that 9 car, damn it, God damn it, like that. So just raising hell at me over the radio. So I didn't say anything. I just, he's under speed, he's got the helmet on, I just let it go on one there, out there, had to have thick skin, remember?
Things went from bad to worse once Earnhardt got back to pit road.
Of course, everybody in the garage area monitored us, and plus the fans, plus NASCAR. So I just told him on the radio after he shut down, I said, Dale, I'm up here by myself. You know I can't clear you off at turn 4. That's why we use 2 spotters during the race. Well, he didn't like it. He keyed that mic, and he didn't yell it. He screamed it, F you.
Wow.
Well, boy, that pissed me off. I mean, I was hot. And somebody told me, when he said it, Richard said Childress' eyes got about that big.
Cullen had certainly seen the cantankerous side of Earnhardt a time or two in the heat of competition, but this one hit different. A Vietnam veteran and pilot who'd flown for several NASCAR teams, Cullen's temper was immediately red line pegged. Still, Cullen was at least smart enough not to return fire via the team's radio.
Well, I come off that spotter tire. I was really close to cussing him out on the radio. I said, nah, that's the worst thing I can do.
Yeah.
Everybody listen to us, the fans, the competitors. So I come off that spotter tower, and I go in the garage, and I'm looking for him. And Richard's standing there, and I said, I quit. I said, he's not going to talk to me like that. I said, I quit. He needs to find him another spotter. And Richard says, well, calm down. I said, well, I'm calm.
The following day, on the Saturday before the 500, Cullen struck a deal to spot that season for Tony Stewart. Like Earnhardt, another driver well known for his meek, mild, and always calm demeanor. Sunday morning, Color went to the airport just behind Daytona's backstretch to stow his bags and pre-flight the aircraft, owned, ironically enough, by Richard Childress. It was at that point when Color got a phone call from Kevin Hamlin, Earnhardt's crew chief. It took some heavy-duty coaxing, but Color relented and agreed to meet with Earnhardt.
Jimbo was standing outside the coach. I said, "Yeah, I've been summoned." He said, "Yeah, he's been waiting for you." Had two chairs sitting outside the coach, and Earnhardt comes out. He grabs me around my neck and arm, you know how he does. And in Earnhardt's way, he apologizes. And we sit there and talk. And he says, I know I shouldn't have said that. He said, I was up there, and I know it's hard for you to clear and this and that. And I said, well, Dale, man, I'm starting my 6-year spot for you. I said, you don't know how tough it is up there sometimes, and I don't want to say something to you if I'm not sure. And if you want to change something, you got to tell me. I can't read your mind. He said, yeah, I know. And he said, man, but I really appreciate it. Would you spot for me today? And I said, yeah, Dale, I'll do that. And we hugged and shook hands. About brings tears to my eyes.
With Color and Earnhardt back on the same page, that left Ward Burton, whose emotions had been simmering since late the season before. 3 months after he felt he'd been dumped by Earnhardt at Homestead, Burton was still peeved. Somehow, some way, Burton had to let Earnhardt know about it. He got his chance just before driver introductions.
Dale was standing there with his back to me, and I can't remember where I qualified. I think I finished 8th or 9th in the one. So I purposely hit him with my shoulder going up to the podium to get introduced. And that's just what I had to do with Dale. You couldn't talk to him about it. He wasn't going to change. If I accidentally wrecked the 3 car, or I did something to affect the 3 car, it wasn't just racing. You would get hate mail and everything else, but the 3 car could wreck me or anybody else, and it was just racing. I mean, people like myself, when I'm in that race car, I got a lot of people in there with me. I got my whole team. I've got my sponsors. I've got all the supporters. I've got the car owners. I've got my family. There's a lot of people in those cars with you, so it's not like you're just getting yourself taken advantage of. There's a lot of people that are depending on you to get the best out of what you got that day. So it would certainly irritate the you-know-what out of you when somebody would purposely just take their frustration out on you.
Burton never looked back to catch Earnhardt's reaction. As MRN's pre-race show ticked away toward the green flag, the venerable Bernie Hall tossed the broadcast down to longtime pit reporter Winston Kelly with a good-natured jab at Earnhardt's advanced age.
Dale Earnhardt will start from 7th position today, and if there is such a thing as an always favorite when you come to a racetrack, Earnhardt is it when you come to Daytona. He's looking for his 2nd Daytona 500 win today. He'll be turning 50 years old in April, and Winston Kelly, tell him to go out there and represent us senior citizens good today.
Well, let's see what he says about that. Barney Hall just talking about you going out and representing the senior citizens very well. You're not that old.
Easy now. I'm not 50 yet. Just take it easy, guys. I got a lot of years of racing left. And don't talk about me yet. I mean, when I go to start sitting on the porch a little more, then you talk about me being a senior citizen. But right now, I'm having to pay full price at the cafeteria.
After a few more pleasantries, the last media interview Dale Earnhardt would ever grant was over. As her husband Darrell coped with the reality of a new job up in the Fox broadcast booth, Stevie Waltrip was also wondering what she should be doing. For quite some time, she had been sharing passages from the Bible with Earnhardt, which he in turn would tape to the dashboard of his race car. Despite feeling out of place in her husband's new circumstances, Stevie headed to pit road, scripture passage in hand. This time, her selection was Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 10. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run to it and are safe. Just before engines fired, motor racing outreach chaplain Max Helton prayed on pit road with Earnhardt, his wife Teresa, and car owner Richard Childress. Helton held Earnhardt's hand through the window of his race car. When Helton said amen, he noticed that Earnhardt seemed to squeeze his hand a little longer than he normally did. With that, the 2001 Daytona 500 got underway. The race's first caution came out on lap 49 when Jeff Purvis slapped the wall coming off turn 4. As the field began to make its way down pit road during the caution, Earnhardt accidentally ran into the back of the Pontiac driven by Ken Schrader. It was the first of several what-if moments during the race for Earnhardt. What if his car had been damaged just a little bit more? Would he have been in the fateful position he was on the final lap? Lap 79, Ron Hornaday. What if? Lap 85, Earnhardt made contact with Kurt Busch, who was making the first start of his first full-time Winston Cup season for car owner Jack Roush. Earnhardt responded with what is widely considered the final, and most definitely the last one captured on television, one-fingered salute of his career.
The way I remember all that is I had no idea what I was doing. I thought I was minding my own business, following somebody in the middle lane. And next thing I know, I got this black 3-car rubbing off my right front fender. And then as I would watch the video afterwards, I realized I was in the wrong space. I was kind of in this no man's land. And turn 4 is a tough spot. Once you come off turn 4, the spotters are looking straight at the cars. The cars are coming straight at them. And so the depth perception is tough for them. But, I'm the one driving the car. So I just didn't know what lane I was supposed to be in, or I was trying to make a pass, and then ultimately ended up wrecking off a turn 4 later in the race. And so it just showed my inexperience, and it showed Dale Sr.'s status of who he is and the race itself. And, I just didn't know where I was, and I didn't respect the territory, and he was telling me to go back in my box.
What if the contact with Busch had triggered a mishap? Lap 143, Tony Stewart closed on Earnhardt, apparently much faster than expected as they entered turn 3. Stewart gave Earnhardt a healthy pop. What if Earnhardt had spun harmlessly to the inside of the track, then and there? Just a few laps later, Earnhardt clanged fenders with Jeff Gordon as they flashed under the flag stand. The what-ifs were piling up. Then, on lap 175, the big one. Ward Burton started in 10th place and raced his way to the front of the field 9 times for a total of 53 laps, more than any other driver that day. At Homestead the year before, it had been Earnhardt to spoil Burton's day. In the 2001 Daytona 500, it was Robbie Gordon.
Robbie was I'm not saying the bad guy, but when he put on his helmet and he took that strap right there, he'd get vapor locked. He didn't get oxygen to his damn head. And he would just do some brain-ass moves. And if you watch the tape, you watch it closely, he didn't hit me one time, he hit me 3 times. The third time is, when you got your wheel turned, in those days, you couldn't hit anybody, you were gonna spin them out. That's just the way it was. It wasn't bump drafting in the corner. And so I was passing for 3rd place, Tony Stewart. And they're the 2 DI cars right in front of us. And I was heading to them. I was catching up to them. And Robbie just got me once, he got me twice, and the third one, this is the left rear. He turned me right into the right rear of Tony Stewart's ride, and from that point, you're just on the ride.
After his spectacular flip, Stewart was taken to nearby Halifax Medical Center and was coming out of a CAT scan and series of x-rays when Earnhardt was brought in an hour or so later. Photos of Stewart's accident show the rear of his car lifted into the air, with Burton's coming off the wall and headed toward the inside of the racetrack. Its nose is within mere inches of the right side of Earnhardt's black Chevrolet. What if? Stewart would watch replays of the accident, starting it and stopping it over and over again. If somehow in all the violent twists and gyrations he was experiencing, what if he had nicked Earnhardt just a little bit and turned him into the fray? Would Earnhardt have been forced to the garage with a torn-up race car? Earnhardt would have been mad, but he would have been alive. During the red flag period that followed, it has been widely reported that Earnhardt radioed his team owner, Richard, if they, meaning NASCAR, don't do something to these race cars, it's going to end up killing somebody. Veteran road racer Andy Pilgrim had teamed up with Earnhardt during the 24 hours of Daytona, and in the days leading up to the 500, stayed on Earnhardt's yacht, Sunday Money. Just as cars were beginning to roll again, Teresa Earnhardt, Dale's wife, handed Pilgrim a radio. This time, Earnhardt had a far more lighthearted message to relay.
And she suddenly says, "Oh, he's asking for you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." He said, "He's Dale. He's asking for you." I was like, because they were still under caution. So he got on the radio, and I said, "Hey, Dale, it's Andy." He said, "Oh, yeah, you have a good time?" I said, "Yeah, I'm having a good time." He said, you know, you enjoying it? You know, so I was doing a great job.
Earnhardt's next question caught Pilgrim off guard.
This is what he said. Other people heard it who were listening. I didn't know people actually listened on this stuff till later, but I heard from people after the race or after he died. And he said, "So, you got any advice for me?" And I just laughed. Instinctively, I laughed. Me, a road racer, Dale Earnhardt, I mean, I know he was joking, but it was the fact that he even said it. I just instinctively laughed. And it was like, you know, I was like, no, Dale, I don't have the advice. So you're doing great, man. Just keep doing what you're doing, you know, and good luck. And then as we were having that little laugh right there, they said, green next time. And that's all I came over. And I said, okay, see ya. You know, and that was it. And he said, okay, bye. And that was it.
Dale Earnhardt led the final lap of his career on lap 183, while Michael Waltrip, the newest driver in the Dale Earnhardt Incorporated stable, took over from there. As the laps wound down, the intensity of the race ratcheted up to an almost fever pitch. 2 DEI cars, those driven by Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt Jr., were in first and second, with their team owner Earnhardt in third place right behind.
And I can tell you the last words out of Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s mouth, the last thing he said, it was about 2 or 3 laps to go. And Michael was running the high groove, and he said, "Tell Michael to run low. Tell him to run low. Tell him not to run high." So I had to go get Ty Norris and Dale said, "Tell Michael to run low, not to run high." I don't know, it was 3 or 4 laps to go, whatever it was. And so we get that last lap, you know, he dropped.
But he never said anything else.
He never said anything else after that. That was the last words he out of his mouth.
White flag, the last lap. Sterling Marlin was not content with fourth place. He had to try something, so he turned his steering wheel ever so slightly to the left in an attempt to get under the elder Earnhardt. He thought he had drafting help from Ken Schrader.
I remember taking a white, and I told myself I'm going to go in a little high in turn 1 and get a good run off the corner, get up under Dale. And sure enough, he did. Come off on turn 2, got under him, and looked back in the mirror, and Ken was gone. It wasn't there anymore. And I felt the hair just stop. You know, the whole back slow. The front 3 of us, or me and Earnhardt, slowed down 10 mile an hour. And Schrader, I guess, went all the way to outside, saw something line coming to his right. He wanted to move that line, I guess, and he just slowed everybody way up.
When Marlin zigged, Schrader zagged. This was a high-speed chess match, and Schrader was trying to think a couple of moves ahead.
I remember coming off turn 2 and said, okay, everybody's trying to get underneath anybody, and I went too high to the top. But it's like, okay, guys, here's the way this is going to work. I don't give a shit what you think. You're not going to get underneath Dale. So I'll be up here by myself. And as soon as y'all figure that out, I don't care when it is, it can be in the middle of 3 and 4, and we'll go.
And then disaster in the final turn of the final lap.
I run on the bottom of Dale's in the middle, and he just come down across the nose. You know, I think first to go for Dale and get him loose, you know. Didn't touch him, but and just barely touched my right foot there, and it turned me on the flat too. Man, saved mine, and it just hit me hit the fence.
Earnhardt's car turned left onto the apron of the racetrack, then veered hard back to the right, up the track, into Schrader's path, and into the outside retaining wall.
I'm going along, and here comes Dale. I was like, oh, geez. And we hit. You see a lot of pictures, my car looks like it's going straight, and his is sideways in front of me, but we hit together side by side because he turned me, and we went, you know, when he was coming up, I hit him, he hit me, whatever, we went in the wall together.
The Earnhardt and Schrader cars slid back down the track, almost as if they were welded together, and came to a stop on the apron near the entrance to pit road. The world NASCAR had once known was over. Join us next time on Firestorm 2000, 2001, the years that forever changed NASCAR, for episode 7, in which we'll break down the immediate aftermath of this terrible day in Daytona. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow the Scene Vault and Firestorm podcasts so you don't miss a single moment.